So we all like to save money. Trust me included. I blind buy a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of times where I don't want to spend $300, $400, even $500 on a fragrance. So what I do is I try to find the best clones that I can find. But sadly, sometimes that's really not the case. So here are my tips before buying a clone fragrance. Now there are many clones out there. You have multiple clones of Jean Paul Gaultier Elixir. There are now starting to be a lot of clones of Louis Vuitton's Imagination. Heck, there's even some clones coming out for Blue Talisman, my favorite fragrance from the house of Exnalio. And picking the right one can be a little bit daunting. For example, if you are, and this is actually going to be my first tip, if you're looking for a clone fragrance, make sure to do your research. And what I mean by that is look on places like Reddit, look on places like Fragrantica, look on pretty much any forum that you can find to see if that would work for you. I always thought that the Rayhan Elixir was the best clone for Jean Paul Gaultier's La Mer Elixir. Then I started digging and I was like, maybe it's Lattafa's Kingdom. And then Versace had to come out with a new Hawass, which was Elixir. But you know what I found out going through all of these different clone fragrances for La Mer Elixir? If I would have just done my research, I would have saved the money and just get Rayhan. This is the best elixir that I have found for La Mer's Elixir. It captures everything even down to the longevity after about roughly 3 weeks of maceration. Next tip, the most expensive clone isn't always the best clone. Now, I don't have this fragrance that I'm about to speak of, thank God, because it just costs way too much off the top of it. But the line of Alharmain's Amber Ouds. Now, I do have 2 of them, but some of the great clones for them just cost too much versus what you can get from other clone houses. Just try it out. And if you can sample, like I can, you can get stuff like Sunrise. You can get stuff like Game of Spades. You can get stuff like Aqua Dubai if you can sample instead of like spending so much money. So make sure that you can sample fragrances instead of just buying the whole bottle, because some of these clone houses are getting ridiculously expensive. Next, and really most importantly, and you should do this with any fragrance anyway, but test the fragrance on your skin. If you are in any metropolitan area or at least about an hour out from one, see if you can find yourself a Middle Eastern store. See if you can find yourself a little fragrance store, like a little fragrance outlet that's outside of like your big box stores like Macy's and Belk and JCPenney's and all those different stores like that, Saks, Neiman's. See if you can get to those stores and sample on skin, because I've ran into a situation with the first time I saw it came out that it made my skin itch. Yes, some of these clone brands don't have a similar standard to what we have here in the States. That does not mean that they're bad. It's just that, of course, they're going to take home to the local population. And how we do our skin and how other people around the world do our skin are completely different. So if you can put it on your skin, make sure that you can to smell how close it is, because out of the bottle, it can smell just like it. But on your skin, once it hits the pH, it can be a little bit different, especially when it comes to fragrances cloning designer fragrances. Assad, for the example. So Assad, which I do have, is a clone of Dior Sauvage Elixir. Now, with that clone, that first iteration of it, it still smells so good. That first iteration of it, it was trash. And I've talked about this earlier here on my channel, talked about it on TikTok, talked about it on Facebook. I even talked about it on Reddit. The first iteration of it was trash to me, on my skin particularly. And it made my skin itch, like I said earlier. But if I would have just went to one of those stores, put it on my skin, I would have saved the headache of buying it. I would have saved the headache of going through this whole entire process of telling people not to buy it. All because I didn't sample when I did have an opportunity to sample. So make sure if you do have an opportunity to sample, go ahead and sample these fragrances on skin, walk around with it, smell it a few times, go get the original, spray it on, walk around with it, smell it a few times and see exactly if they match up. Next tip, Not properly macerating your fragrances. I've talked about this multiple times, especially on TikTok. When it comes to macerating a fragrance, this goes for some designers, this goes for niche, and this goes for pretty much anything Middle Eastern, any clone house, Lattafas, Al Harmains, montages, Paris corners. It goes for all of them. What you need to do is get the fragrance. This right here is Vintage Radio, my favorite clone ever. It's a clone of Initio's Paragon. Take the cap off. Depending on the size, so this is a 3.4. A 3.4 you need to spray 20 times, right? So if you can just do the calculation from 3.4 and then under it, you'll know what I'm talking about. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I'm not gonna spray it here in this room because this fragrance actually gets kind of loud. Put it in a cool, dark place. It can be a fridge. People put them in refrigerators, that's fine. But really just like your desk drawer, just out of the sunlight is really the main important thing for about roughly 2.5 to 3 weeks. Some even a little bit longer. This one particularly, it took 3 weeks and a day. So it took 22 days for it to get exactly how like it was with Initio's Paragon. And when I ran out of Paragon, I never picked it back up because Vintage Radio smells just like it's unisex. My wife wear it and I wear it, but all because it was properly macerated. A lot of these fragrance brands are getting, especially on the niche side, Parfums de Mali to be a little bit more specific, they are getting very intricate in how they make their fragrances. So you have Liquid Bronze, clones of Parfums de Mali, Altair. Now, fresh out the bottle, they do smell just alike, just being honest with you. But as the maceration process happens, right, they start to splinter apart on exactly what the smell is. Kind of like if you ever had Creed Aventus and then you go get Mont Blanc Explorer, it's a similar DNA. You can tell that Mont Blanc Explorer really wanted to capture that DNA, but something is missing. It's the same way once you get to about 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 3 months. But they're still in the same family, but you can start to smell the difference. That's not a bad thing at all. It's just that over time, they will start to smell different. Next and final tip, please do not wear these fragrances like Jordans. If you have a replica fragrance, a clone fragrance, and somebody else has a real or vice versa, y'all don't need to get on each other about it. At the end of the day, some people want to be more fiscally responsible. Not me. But some people honestly want to be fiscally responsible when it comes to getting these fragrances, and they are happy with just smelling just enough like it. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people won't be able to tell the difference. People with more nuanced noses like me, other fragrance creators, or people who have like a monstrous collection, I'm pretty much at 221, will smell the difference. But we're not about to sit there like clowning on somebody because they have a difference of a smell when it comes to any of these expensive fragrances. So please don't harp on that when it comes to other people and their fragrance choices. I appreciate everybody coming back to the channel. If you like the video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Let's get this out to the algorithm. I have a lot of content for y'all. I post on TikTok at least 2 videos every single day. And on YouTube, I post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, just so I can give y'all all the information that I would love to share with y'all. If y'all have any questions or anything, any video topics you want me to touch on, put it in the comments. I answer every single comment. One of the only creators that do. And I will continue to do that. This is RonnieFragrances, and I will talk to y'all later.